And you're welcome once again. And as I told you, for this very first segment, we are going to be dealing with the Electoral Commission directly. And you want to disabuse your mind of any questions that you have, any issues that you have that are unsettled in your mind about the elections and the entire process. Matters have come up that have sought to question the integrity of the Electoral Commission as we head to December 7. Let's have them answer the questions that have been asked. And you can send in your questions now, 1422. You can also post them on our Facebook wall or send them to newsfile@myjoyonline.com, or you could also call into the show and ask them directly your questions. So like the EC is already doing, I call this Ask the EC. So right now, just ask the EC. The number to call will be on the screen. So you just take note of it and you make the call. Now, I'm happy to be joined in the studio by two very important persons in the Electoral Commission of Ghana. I'm talking about Mr. Amadou Sule, who is the Deputy Chairperson, Operations, and also Mrs. Rebecca Kabuki Ajalo, who is a Commission member. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming to Newsfile.
Thank you very much, Samson.
Right. Good to have you. Good to have you. Now, as I have already announced, people have the opportunity to send us messages about what bothers them about the elections or the process leading to the election, particularly on election day, what they ought to look out for, what they ought to do, what they cannot do, and also the role of, we'll find out the role of the agents and all of that. But before we get to that, once again, I must say I appreciate the fact that you make time for us, because we know you are very busy, particularly in these days. You are becoming very, very extremely busy, because also that the process had delayed as a result of the disqualifications and the court processes that had all gone on. So you have quite a tight schedule to meet. So thank you very much for making the time to come. Was it on Friday or Thursday? 3 of the political parties, Dr. Edward Mahama of the PNC, I'm talking about their leaders, Dr. Edward Mahama of the PNC, Dr. Papa Kwesi Ndum of the PPP, and also Nana Konedo Ajman Rawlings of the National Democratic Party, issued a statement. And in that statement, they sought to suggest that they have been unfairly dealt with in the process by virtue of they having to go to court and fight your decisions and everything else. So they had limited time to campaign. As a result of that, they were unable to campaign properly. And so they are asking you to postpone the elections to afford them the opportunity to do a good job. How do you react to that?
Yeah, thank you very much, Samson. And I also thank our cherished observers and listeners. And these are issues of law. And Samson, to be straight and honest, you see, election is action-packed and time-bound. You know, we are now in the next circle, that is the conduct of election, which starts with nomination of candidates. So if you don't end the nomination and you don't do your nominations based on the law, then most of the processes cannot continue. So you need to look at the law, finish your nomination, and then continue. So I think every person who wants to contest should have this at the back of his or her mind, that at the end of nomination, whatever happens, you know, the election is going to come on the 7th of December. If it does not come on, then the consequences are very serious. And as ENB, Election Management Body, we need to look at all these processes and then make sure, since we operate within the law, whatever processes that these candidates go through are consistent with the law. But my sister is here.
Yes.
She can throw more light.
Madam Ajalo, is it to understand that you can't help these parties because they are asking for an adjournment of the poll, a postponement, because we haven't started? Yeah.
Thank you, Samson. As my colleague mentioned, the process is time-bound.
Right.
And it is a process. So you move from one stage to the other. Now, it is inevitable that in the course of that process, you know, a disaggrieved nominee may want to take his disagreement up to court. It is inevitable. The consequences are there, you know. So in order not to derail the timetable, the commission still moves on. We have a deadline. The date is the 7th of December, and nothing should stop that date. Otherwise, constitutionally, there's going to be a problem. And so the process has to move on. Unfortunately, with litigation, these are the sort of things that you have. But the rule of law must prevail. If you are disaggrieved and the commission cannot do anything about it, then you move to the next stage and you bear the consequences.
So that's really the point. We understood that yesterday there was an IPAC.
Sure.
And this was supposed to be one of the issues to be discussed. Unfortunately, that do we understand you that, well, it's not an issue that deserves your attention at all?
Not that, Samson. As my sister said, you know, they accepted the fact that any postponement of that process, the consequences are going to be more serious.
Okay.
If you look at the ruling of even the Apex Court, they were very explicit that we are going to extend the nomination period, but between what, 7th and what, 8th? Because they were thinking about the election. Right. Okay? So that is why maybe the parties realize we don't have to continue to follow this issue. Okay. So they forgot about it.
So they've forgotten about it.
That is it.
Okay, then that's
in fact, yesterday at IPAC, this issue did not come up.
Right.
Did not come up.
It had been advertised as one issue that will come up at the meeting. And before you got to yesterday, we'll get to the basics of the election issues that should dominate what we discuss here today, this morning, and also take people's calls and their concerns and get you to answer them. But before we got to yesterday, and even going to the 7th, we're going to have the allegations flying left, right, center. I'm sure we're getting to the peak of the silly season, really. You have had accusations leveled at you, particularly by the opposition, major opposition party. You have been accused there were some error on the logo, regarding the MPP's logo on the ballots. In the Ashanti region, the issue came up. Again, just recently, we had the accusation that you were planning, or as it were, scheming to take faulty biometric devices, BVDs, to areas in Accra and also in the Volta region, is it? And so that to the strongholds of the MPP, to disadvantage them. You came out to speak about them. Most of these allegations that come, someone would say the opposition will just not be throwing the allegations without any basis at all, would you say?
Yeah, it's interesting, Samson. You know, what I keep on saying is this. If you look at what we've been doing currently, you realize that the commission adheres to the guiding principles of electoral justice. That is transparency. We have been very transparent right from day one, the beginning of this year, January. You know, meeting the parties, the political parties at IPAC. Whatever we do, we try to explain to all political parties what we are doing and how we are doing them. We don't do them alone. There are some issues you raise about this printing of ballots or sending faulty BVDs. Okay? So, to start with the printing of ballots, you see that we had various printing houses which did this job. But before they started, we had a team from our commission with the team leader. All the agents of the registered political parties were there. The security was also there. So anything that we did together with all the parties.
Right.
bringing or printing the ballots into booklets. We did with them. They took serial numbers. When there were issues that the ballots were not in good shape, we needed to shred them and then bend them. We did them together.
Okay.
So we were very transparent with them. And as I talk now, even the BVDs that have gone to the various regions, they are aware. We share all these ideas with them. So how do you even determine the state of a particular BVD? You know, and I keep on talking to our stakeholders that if you are in doubt about any process, why don't you revert and find out from us before running to maybe
the media, okay,
or any other places? Then the thing will turn out to be that we've had already discussed.
And you are operating an open door policy.
That is it.
You have opened your doors and you say the political parties can walk in any time, isn't it?
That's
to
correct.
ask any questions that bother their mind. Why do you think that they will not avail themselves of these opportunities? And to be frank, you guys seems to be one of the state institutions that have the most proficient group of communicators who are around doing communications for you. But without them, I can imagine how things would have gone up to this time. So the question is, why is it that you open your doors and everything, and yet these things are coming up almost by the day? We have witnessed one situation which was clearly patent falsehood about the upper region where the ballots has been sent, and then some people raised an alarm. Some people who are supposed to have been part of the supervision of the delivery of the material took pictures of them and sent them to the media, suggesting that there had been the police had impounded these materials because they were being sent to disadvantage the opposition. Why do you think they are not taking advantage of the open door that you have, and all of these allegations are flying left, right, center?
Samson, if you ask me that question, I'll tell you that I'm at a loss why anyone would do that. Because as you said, our doors are always open. But some people have got mischievous, fertile minds that, are ever ready to foment trouble. I really cannot avert my mind to why, some people would do that. Because we have been very transparent. All our processes are open for everyone to see. If there's any demonstration that has to be made regarding an equipment, we invite all the parties. So for someone or for people to foment these mischievous misinformation, begs the question. Now, as you said, we have an excellent PR now. And so we are, at every step of the way, we try to discount all these allegations. We come up with press statements, which we also put on our website, to discount these allegations. So I think in the process of being transparent, whatever the allegation is, we come and explain what may have happened or where the misinformation may have been. But at all times, the Electoral Commission doors are always open for any media to do their due diligence. And I think it is important for media, before they report anything or before somebody hands over something to them, to do their diligence with the Electoral Commission. I think we have a very good rapport with them, and it is incumbent on them to do that due diligence before reporting and then creating confusion in the minds of the people.
Okay, one very big issue that has come up, and the political parties have been at your necks for them, for it is about the claim, the suggestion that was made by the commission chair that there will be some recounting if results are close. Now, Osonoba Kwabena Entwibwesiako is asking, please ask the EC, what is the legal basis for recounting the ballot if it's close, as the EC suggested?
Well, in fact, this issue came up at IPAC yesterday, and what the chairperson said was that, well, if the political parties don't want the recount, I mean, that is fine, because at the last election, this was something that the political parties wanted. And so if this time it's been offered to you by the chairperson, who is the returning officer, and can do that, and you say you don't want it, well, when the time comes, the commission will take that decision as to how close, whether there's a recount. But you see, the word recount is being used mischievously. a recount, not necessarily taking all the ballots or opening the ballot boxes and counting them, because before you open that, you would even need to seek the permission of the court before you open the ballot boxes, you know, for any such thing. And that's the reason why we close them, so that in case of any litigation and the court decides that, yes, we need the ballot papers, then it will be open. But recounting in, I mean, used loosely as such means it could be a recollation.
His questioning is, what's the legal basis for it?
Yes, I think something my commissioner has underscored the point. She tries to
you realize
differentiate.
That it's so important that it's an issue that came up at IPAC for discussion.
Yeah, you know, the point is she had underscored the two differences. Because in the electoral system, when you talk about recount and recollation, they are not the same. Okay? When you're talking about recount, the law has explicitly defined them. The bullet itself, the ballot, you need to have them to do what, you know. But if you are recollating, maybe Mr. A got 3, B got 4, 5, you added them, instead of getting an answer, the thing went to a different figure. They say, oh, let me cross-check, let me do recollation, okay? But if you are talking about recount, it's very clear in the law. But the situation that the commission kept on talking about is, should there be a disagreement that, oh, this is the figure that we got, but you are telling us is this. Can we look at it again?
By the provision of the law,
by the
provision of the law, it is the aggrieved party that's supposed to request it. But I understand you to say that even if they don't request it, the law doesn't say that the EC cannot on its own initiate a recount. But the question he is asking, what's the legal basis? Because there's not. As far as
agree.
he
You know, the presidential returning officer is who?
The chairperson.
Great. So if there is any doubt about the figure, then the returning officer has the right, even if the presiding officer has said, oh, this is what we are going to do. He will look at it again and take a decision. Okay? So the returning officer has the authority to say, let us look at it. I just don't go and say that, oh, everything is okay. Okay? Because the presidential election, the returning officer is our chairperson.
Okay. Akontori James wants to know whether he can request a new ballot paper if he mistakenly thumb-printed for a candidate not of his choice.
You see, the procedure is clear. Requesting for a new ballot paper, that meant he had spoiled that ballot paper.
Right.
And the ballot had not gone into the ballot box.
That's correct.
Maybe he was in the screen and noticed he had done that.
Right.
So he had to draw the attention of the presiding officer. Oh, I'm very sorry, I did some mistake. This is the thing. Then the returning officer will look at it so he can get it replaced. But they need to cancel that ballot paper and write what? Spoiled. And then put it in a jacket, which is at that center.
Okay.
Then
Daisy Black wants to know that, it says, ask the EC if it is true that the EC plans to send thumbprints, inks, that vanishes, fades after some minutes to MPP strongholds. A lot of the things are going to MPP strongholds.
In fact, this also came up
it did.
at the IPAC, you know, that this was what had been planned by some people. But the thing is that, you know, it is a rumor or an allegation that is going around. We don't know how true it is, but people can be troublesome. Once you go behind that screen, you go behind that screen. I mean, you are supposed to have your privacy in order to do your voting. So, I mean, I really can't see how someone could do that. Exchange the stamp and then replace it with one that vanishes. And we hear that, in fact, when you thumbprint with that stamp, and it goes, yes, it goes into the ballot box, it vanishes within 3 hours. Now, upon the counting of the ballots, you find that those ballot papers don't have any stamp on it, and therefore they become rejected. You know, we don't know the veracity of these rumors, but we will take all precautions. And the media, not the media, well, the public, the public and the agents should be very watchful.
Okay. Nassam Inusa wants to know what will be the punishment for an officer who issues a ballot paper to the voter and intentionally fails to stamp it.
Well,
punishment.
If you look at the offences section in the CI 94, it says that an election. If you read Regulation 44, it says that an election officer who is required to perform a function under these regulations but fails to perform that function commits an offence and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of not more than 500 penalty units or to a term of imprisonment of not more than 2 years or to both, and shall for a period of 5 years from the date of expiration of the term of imprisonment be disqualified from being engaged as an election officer.
Okay.
So the sanction is tough. When you talk about penalty units, one penalty unit is 12 Ghana cedis. So multiply that by 500, that is a huge
like
amount of money. Exactly.
Okay.
So
6,000, yeah.
So there is a sanction.
Right.
For
and what I want to add something here is that I want our agents or even the electorate themselves going to vote to ensure that if the ballot issuer is going to give them the ballot, he or she should have validated. That is validation.
Validation means you should have stamped at the back.
That is it, at the back, indicating the validation number. Okay. You should watch out for that.
So all voters must be careful and mindful of the fact that the validating stamp has to be at the back of the ballot. And so when you are given that, you have to make sure that it's validated.
All the agents as your vote is invalid.
It is invalid.
It's one of the reasons to reject the ballot.
Yeah.
That is it.
That's interesting.
Yes.
It's
number 1 on the list.
Okay. Now, Hublan Trust says that, okay, he says, I'm Ezekiel. I'm listening from Paris. Samson, please ask the EC, how come the special voting data jumped from 65,000 to 11,000? Is it, what was the figure there? Okay, so he's saying that there seems to be some inconsistency in the special votes, numbers.
Yes, the list is true, but the figures that you are calling, I think the final figure came to about 127,934. Initially, it was 114 something, okay? But the reasons are these. Yesterday, it came up at the IPAC. One, our officials, this time we recruited the officials online. And at the point of recruitment, we realized that some of the officials had to be exported to other places to enable them work. If you look at the ruling of the Supreme Court, the caliber of people you are using, and there are some areas in this part of the country where you cannot even get those calibers, so you need to move them. So if these people are going to move on ED, definitely they have to vote what? On a special voting day. Then secondly, we do not want to compromise the security of the process. And we needed the security people more. And looking at the numbers now, recently, some about 500 recruits passed out. So the police made a request. We needed to get them to make sure that we have enough people who will be manning your polling stations and who will be doing patrol in flashpoint areas. The police term it hot point. Okay, so these numbers had to be added.
Okay.
So that is why the figure changed. Okay. And the good thing is, these figures that I'm talking about, we're going to furnish them to all the registered political parties. Okay. So you know. Nothing we are going to hide. By my sister, if you want.
Okay, thank you. Now, there are still many people who are asking about, the claim for a possibility of recounting if the elections are closed, the results are closed and all. But let's move on. It does suggest to me that people are still not too clear about that. But Benjamin Osei, Jamra in Edinburgh, in UK, says that, will the results be projected on a screen at the National Collation Centre? 2, why are they planning to use ambulance to transfer ballot boxes to collation centers? Okay. Will there be, you know,
of course,
a screen
there's
project
going
the
to be
results?
a screen to project all collated results from the CCC, that's the Constituency Collation Centers. It will be zoomed on the screen, just as it had been zoomed at the Constituency Collation Centers. So you see at the National Collation Center, this is the result, maybe coming from a fear meeting or what is coming from Zabzu. You see it on the screen. Then you also see the summary.
And you say this will also be at the collation centers themselves?
Yes, at both the Constituency Collation Center for
and
that constituency and the National Collation Center.
So for parliamentary and for the presidential.
That is it. Yes.
Then Gorazo, he sends this from Kent in the UK. He says, how is it ever possible that a ballot paper is thumb-printed ahead of elections, as happened in Saviligo? And is it not weird that one particular party's box had been thumb-printed?
Now,
it's interesting.
Yes.
It's very interesting.
You know, some of the things that go out, it's really amazing because what they are terming as thumbprints was really the stamp. You know, the pictures that the candidates, they present to the commission, they have to be stamped at the back.
Okay.
So unfortunately, some of the stamp gets through the picture to the front. So you see the stamp. When you take the picture, you see the stamp that has come through onto the picture. And this is what is being termed as already thumb printed. But we have removed all those.
Okay.
Let me tell you something. This issue
says that, yes.
You see, they already thumb printed. It's not. Because I was there, you know, this underscored the importance of the checking. When we were checking the ballots that had gone to the north, that of Savulgu had this stain on the face of one of the candidates. And you say, what? This stain would create a lot of confusion on the ED. So why do you maintain the ballot? We needed to bring the ballot back, burn it, and print a new one. And luckily, it's not only Savulgu, it also happened for Wellesley. And the two big boys were affected by this. So the reprinting took place. Okay? So as for that, as my
Musa Kumasi says, if I lost my ID card, my voter ID, or it has it's been destroyed or spoiled somehow, can I go and vote?
Certainly you can go and vote, because we have a names reference list that is at the all the polling stations are furnished with it. So when you go to the polling station, you mention your name. The names reference list officer will find your name, and then once your name has been found and your details checked, you'll be asked to place your fingers on the BVD. And then once you are verified, you'll be allowed to vote.
Great. Don Pino in Malam is asking, when is the EC supposed to close the registration of security services for the special voting? I am posing this question in relation to a recent communique issued by the IGP to the Commission to register some recruits for the special voting.
No, it's closed already.
It's closed.
I was telling you that even the figures that we have now went to Dubai, it's closed. It's long closed. And we've got the numbers. And these numbers have been given
Idris
to all
Odum
registered
in Bajwase says, on what basis of the law is the EC planning? Okay, we have done that question about the recount already.
With the recount, you see, we are an election management body. We take decisions. So it is not every decision that we take that, you know, follows the law.
Must be prompt, follows the law?
No, it's not every decision. As an EMB, you know, there are certain circumstances that you have to take the decision on the exigency.
Exercise discretion.
Well, exercise discretion within the law. Within the law.
Okay.
Within the law. So you cannot have an utopian situation where everything that is anticipated has been regulated for or legislated for. So that is why you have the commission. That is why we have been given all the powers, you know, to do what is right.
What is right. I think my commissioner is clear on this. I don't know, Ladin, whether you are a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer, but I don't think every aspect of the process could be captured specifically or explicitly in the law.
That's
There are
what you just
certain
said.
things there that, they are not in the law, but you make sure maybe you do them, but in doing them, you ensure that they are consistent with what?
With the law.
With the law. So
Okay, I'll take a last
this,
question
yes.
by Mustafa Alima Zanga. He says, under a condition that the number of voters that voted through the manual verification exceeds the number of voters that voted through the BVD machine, what then becomes the fate of the poll in that polling station?
This is an interesting question. You see, I don't know why she put the second one, the manual verification, rather to have more people than the actual BVD, verifying people, which I find it a little bit difficult for it to happen. Because if the voter gets there, you're going to be verified by the machine. And so far, experience has shown that we do not even have more than 5 voters, the machine failing to verify them. There are few. So it will be very difficult if there are 400 registered voters for you to have more than 200 even going through the manual. You find 2, 3, okay? But if that should happen, you combine those who have been manually verified, that is a manual, and then
the BVDs.
The BVDs, and when you add them, they are more than the votes that you find in the box, then you are heading towards overvoting.
Okay, I said that was the last question, but that brings me to another issue that many people are asking about what constitutes voting. What's the definition now? Because that has come up and you've had to haggle over it.
Well, overvoting is a process.
Can you just carry on?
Overvoting is a process. And in case there is overvoting, there is a procedure that the presiding officer has to go through.
Yeah, first, what constitutes that?
Alaji, please.
Yes, you see, before we get this definition, there was a classical definition. They're talking about if you find more ballots in the ballot box than the people who are registered voters at the same time. Maybe the polling station has 200 registered voters. Then at the end of the day, we have 250. But now that we are using the BVDs, we've combined the two. You are verified by the BVD, okay? So you get that figure when you press the F2. Then you are also manually verified. It's one of the recommendations that we accepted, okay? So that we don't rely on the machine, the failure of machine to disenfranchise you. So if you have people who have gone through the manual verification with all the agents there, maybe they were 3, and then those who have gone through the BVDs happen to be 200. So you add the 2, then you come out with the figure of people who have been verified at the center. But if you add the 3 and then the 200, instead of getting 203 in the box, it came out to be 250. Straight away, you see that there has been a case of what? Overvoting.
Okay.
Then you can do the administrative check,
right,
as my listener is saying.
All right.
To confirm.
All right. It does appear that there are just too many issues people are raising and questions that are coming up, but we just don't have the time to be able to deal with them. I hope that we have 10 days to the elections, that we'll have the opportunity to engage you so that our viewers and our listeners will get to be acquainted with the processes, particularly on election day, as you sought to do on some of the issues, so that they can be clearly educated on how to go and exercise their franchise in a way that in the end we'll all enjoy a peaceful process. Now, in 30 seconds, if you can assure our listeners and viewers that the EC is doing everything that will assure that the process will not be compromised in any way.
Well, I think that apart from the fact that the EC has done all that it has to do to date, we are expecting the public to be also vigilant. Now, when you go to the polling stations, there are certain things that you ought to do and certain things you are not to do. Now, vigilance in the sense that be watchful of everybody who's coming to the polling station. Some people may be carrying some things. Once you notice that, you report to the presiding officer. We expect that the public, the agents, everyone should be vigilant. The work is not entirely that of the EMB. We have done as far as we could do, but the rest of it, would also depend on the voters as well.
Okay. Mr. Sule.
Yes, thank you very much, Samson. I want to state that we have 2 elections. We are left with 4 days to the special voting day,
right.
Then 10 days to the other issue that you raised. But what I want to see is the political party agents.
30 seconds, yeah.
They are very, very important. So parties should ensure that I have the right agent, because we're going to train them so they don't come to the centers and do anything that will undermine the process. They should watch, and then apart from that, the signing of the declare result, the pink sheet. The agent should take part. They should not say, because my man lost, I'm annoyed and I'm going. They should indicate why they are not signing.
All right.
Then our observers who are coming, both local and international, we pray that they stick to the regulations, the guidelines that we give them, so that our processes are going to be very credible.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Amadou Sule is Deputy Chairman of the EC, in charge of operations, and also Mrs. Rebecca Kabuki Ajalo is a commission member. And I'll also say that don't be too quick to discount anything that the stakeholders complain about, because anything is possible in the elections. It reminds me in 2005, in April, in the Asawasi by-elections, the NDCs, some of their big wigs. I remember E.T. Mensah, Totobi Kwachi, Dems, and a host of others, the Ahoys, assisted some of us, the journalists, and we got to know about some 2 trucks, 2 vans that were carrying ballot boxes, not just the boxes with ballots in them. And Kumasi, we raised the alarm, and the police impounded them. They did not belong to the EC in the end. That's what appears to have been found out. How they got there, we don't know.
Nobody knows. That was a by-election.
Yeah, that was a by-election. It was a by-election that I raised that, and I got beaten in that by-election. Okay, so thank you very much, commissioners, for making time to be with us here this morning. This is Newsfile. We'll take a quick break, and then we'll return to deal with the vexed matters. Be right back.